All right, so again, we're going to continue on. And what I wanted to show you, I had problems last time with mine. I was getting an error, and that error said SIGABRT, which stands for signal abort. All right, what that means is you got something wrong with your program. That literally is what it means. And what Apple recommends is that you read through the compiler messages to see if you can figure it out, because it's a generic error. Well, I couldn't figure out what the problem was from those compiler messages, so I went back and rekeyed it in again. I just started from the beginning. And that's actually what I'm going to show you, what I've got on screen right now. Looks very similar to, I thought I had it up, so. Looks very similar, it is the same thing that we've been working on, but I have both. Oh, I guess this is an older copy. I don't have, I want to grab the one that's got everything in it, so let me close this. This will be good because I can't remember which one it is, so. It's either 2.2 or 2.3. So much of the different stuff that you do in here, for lack of better words, is quirky. And it's quirky because you do things in a way that you're not used to doing them on an Intel platform. Again, I was mentioning that I think it was Travis I was saying this to this morning, that I take classes online from this thing, udemy.com, and they're constantly trying to get me to sign up for classes. The newest one is they had this guy out there, and he teaches Swift boot camps and literally charges thousands of dollars. Well, he's also figured out that if he goes and makes recordings, he can charge hundreds of dollars and hopefully get some more money. All right? And the reason I'm telling you this is I was watching a couple of his tapes. They let you watch a couple lessons for free. So I was watching them yesterday. He's very different. He seems like he's a very interesting guy. He lectures all the time with a baseball hat on, which probably says he's got a hairline on top like mine is. But for some reason, in one of the lectures that he showed, somebody must have said that he wasn't being personable enough. So he took his hat, turned it sideways, and started his lecture with, yo, which I thought, wow, that took his credibility and really knocked it down a hell of a lot in my eyes. And he started talking about Justin Bieber, which, just like I said, just kind of blew me away. But the reason I'm telling you about this is not for that, but one thing that he mentioned is there actually is a thing online, and there's several of them, but I realize you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing right now, but just want to see if this is the right one. Yes, it is. Okay, good. All right. What I'll do later is I'll put the URL out there, and I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm not on the internet. All right. Sometimes this machine likes to let me on the internet, and sometimes it doesn't. Today was one of those where it didn't. But what I did was, based on this, the thing I was telling you about with this guy watching his videos, there is, and again, I'll put it out there. Don't write this down. It's not worth writing down. I'll put it out there, and I'll run you all off a copy. But he's got a thing out there, a YouTube video. This isn't his, but this is one he recommends. It's called How to Install Mac OS X 10.10 Yosemite on a PC. Now, if you're the kind of person who has never done much stuff on your own machine, and I don't mean to do it on these machines, but if you've got your own machine at home, your own laptop at home. And it's a fairly new laptop, so it's maybe 2-3 years or newer. You might be able to follow this guy's steps and basically set up a virtual machine on your own machine at home and put the Mac operating system on that. All right? And I know that Yosemite is not the newest, but this is just the tape this guy has. With the guy who did the class, he said he tried doing it on his own laptop. It did not work. Now, he said the reason he thinks it did not work is his own laptop is 5 years old. And he said he just didn't think it had the horsepower to do it. But he tried it, I guess, on another machine, a newer one, and it worked just fine. If you do that, you'd be able to actually do Mac stuff at home. All right? That's the good news. So if you don't have a Mac, that would be a workaround for you. Now, if you're going to do that, of course, you don't want Yosemite. You're going to want the, what is it, El Capitan, which is the newest one. You're going to want to download that. You're going to want to have the same version of Swift, the same version of Xcode, etc., so you can go back and forth. But what I don't want to have happen is somebody do that, come in here and slam your books down in a week or two and go, now you really effed up my machine, Jeff. Thanks for nothing. So if you want to be able to possibly work on a Mac at home or a Mac environment on it at home in a PC, you can watch that. All right. So if I run mine now, just so you see it, it should work. As far as I know it does, but I had a weird thing happen. I'm going to show you this, and then you can tell me if this happened with you or not. All right, the build succeeds, but somehow, and it looks like it's still wrong. All right, here's my section. I think my close button, it doesn't show actually on the screen. It's there, but it doesn't show on the screen. And I've tried moving it up into here. I've tried moving it all over, and I can't get the darn close button to show. So I can open up this BullsEye. I can open up that thing, the About screen, but I can't really close it because my close button doesn't show. But the program works. Everything is in there. Again, I redid this from scratch on Sunday. And it took me about an hour to go through about those first 90 pages of this handout. So if you come in here in spring and you've got an hour or two, you might try to go back and see how much of this you can rebuild in an hour or two. All right? The other thing is, just so you know, my simulator, like I said, I was even going to ask John if you had time. I know you don't have any more time than I do, but to check and see if there's some freeware out there where I can try to clean this machine up. This has taken 15 minutes sometimes for the simulator to come up, which is just, I mean, that's ridiculous. So I don't know what's on there that I put on there, because I don't have much stuff loaded on here. I really and truly don't. So whatever it is, and the other thing too, and maybe you've seen this on your machine, maybe you haven't. What mine does a lot, if I'm trying to transfer files or open a file, is it starts spinning with this little round circle that looks like a rainbow, and it just will spin like that sometimes for 10 minutes. That's if I'm trying to just open up my Xcode project file. You know,
time to wipe that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of junk on here. I don't want to wipe it though, because I've got Camtasia on it, and I don't want to lose that. And supposedly, according to TechSmith, since I've got the CD here, I can remove it, put it back, because I've still got the key and it's on the same machine. I don't really want to take that chance. All right. So right now it does work. So 69 is an example. Hit me. So you can see, almost had it. So you can see the stuff is in there. Okay. The title works. I kept all this stuff in here. A couple people said to me, why'd you just put the score in there? Why didn't you put all this stuff? So you can see how close you were. So I did. You can tell if you take a look up on the screen here, what works. The title works, the value worked, the target worked, plus, since I was only one away, I got 50 bonus points. So you can see all the stuff that I put in there works. Does that make sense? All right. So that's kind of, I think, where we left off last time. I could be mistaken, but I think that's kind of where we left off. So if I click OK, And whoop, that didn't look right. If I click the I button, see how it flips over? See what's not there? All right. Yeah, now it was there. Believe me, I went up, I went down, I went all over the place. It wasn't there the other day. All right. Yeah, I see it down there. That's good. So it all appears to work. So again, what I did was I literally went out and took about an hour and really read through it, because there were quite a few things in here that probably I should have said, oh yeah, and read this. Oh yeah, and read this. All right. But if you get the time, this is a great project to start to learn how to use this stuff. And I don't mean to say, hey, do this project, because if you do, you're going to be an expert. I am about as far away from being an expert as possible. All right. But if you want to start getting a certain comfort level with it, I think this is a great project for doing that. All right. So
I see you have the same issue as I did, because it said you were supposed to get 149 points.
but it's only showing 99 there, huh?
Yeah, I have that same issue.
I'll have to take a look at that, but you're right. The other thing too is, what round should I be in now? 2. For some reason it's incrementing twice in there because it says 3. So I'm calling start new round or something twice. And I look through it, I didn't see it, but if it's in there, it's in there. All right. So
Did you follow his code, and when he says do the hit me button, he says add one round there too?
I believe so.
So that might be where you're might be catching it there.
All right. So, like I said, we left off last time when we're somewhere around, looking at this, we're on around page 100. Okay? Not exactly, but I just whipped here to page 96 to see exactly where we are. So, there's the About screen. I added that, had no problem with it. Everything that was in there seemed to work okay. Put in the text view, that was all okay. All right. So I believe that where we left off last time was on approximately page 106 on the bottom of the page. And on the bottom of page 106, it says, open up my handout here. So on the bottom of page 106, it says, making it look good. And I believe, at least, that's where we left off last time. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to go as far as I can with the rest of this. All right? And then what I will do is on Thursday, I will finish this, but I'm going to do the stuff that we're talking about, but I'm not going to talk. I think I told you this before. So Thursday, you can work on your own doing this. So what I want to do right now, since we have 46 pages left, is I want to walk you through what you have to do in the rest of those 46 pages. All right? But if I take the time to demo everything, it's going to take all the rest of this period and all next period. Then you'll have no time to sit and play with it yourselves. All right? So, the making it look good. The first thing they talk about is removing, from the storyboard, they talk about removing the status bar. All right? And it's not letting me move this around too much. I've already removed it. You may or may not notice the status bar. It's up in here. All right, there's that little bar that's there. It's not a big thing, but what the author is starting to do now is he's saying, okay, we've got a project. The project works. It's fundamentally sound. But if we were to submit this to the App Store right now, there would be things inherently that might make people not want to purchase it, such as having a status bar on there, such as the color sucks. All right, it really does. I mean, right now, it's very hard to see what's going on because technically you can't even see your slider button. All right, so this is what he's talking about in here, is trying to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. All right. So the first thing, again, he talks about is that status bar. Oops. Grab these two and flip them. All right. Now, is it that big of a thing? No. But what he says here, and I'm just going to show you this, when he talks about removing the status bar, he says, go to your main controller. Close a couple of these.
BullsEye 2 over on the.
Yeah, you're right. Right there. All right.
Trying to get to the properties.
That's what I'm trying to get to, is right there. Right there. All right, so I want to go to the view controller of my main controller right here. And then the author says that if you go over here, and what you're going to find is for status bar, right now, almost everything that's over there says inferred, which means it's the default. Okay? If you want to remove that, this isn't hard. Again, what you want to do is have the view controller. Remember how to select the view controller. If you look up on the screen, I can click right here, or I can click the yellow thing up here. And once I do that, and I choose the view controller, and I go over to my attributes inspector, you'll notice that we already set this to landscape earlier. But if you want to get rid of the status bar, you click here by the arrow where it says status bar inferred, and you change that to none. All right, that's half the battle. Okay, so if I go through there, click where it says inferred, and go up to the top where it says none. All right, now it's changed that. All right, that's one thing to do. Okay, the other thing that the author says that you can do is he says go to the project settings screen, which is way up here. Way up there, if you look where the mouse is now at the very top left corner of your screen, where it says BullsEye or BullsEye 2 or whatever, right up there. And if I click on that, it's going to bring up my project settings. It's going to bring up my project settings. See what I... Okay. All right. And if you peruse your way up and down in here, you'll notice that one of the things it says about halfway down is it says hide status bar under status bar style. And you want that checked. If you check that, boom, the status bar will not show. If you set it to none, like I just showed you over here, so if you set it to none up here, but you forget to do this, then the status bar still shows when the program loads, which kind of looks unprofessional. All right, they have something that's there and then it disappears. So I'm just going to check that. Okay, whoop. Don't check it twice, just check it once. There. Now it's hidden. Okay? Now the author also mentions, if you please look up on the screen here, that this is kind of your deployment page here, okay? But if you want to see in detail the different stuff that's in there, you can go down about 2/3 of the way and there's a file called info.plist. And if I highlight that and single click on it, it shows me my different project settings. And one of the ones that it should show me in here someplace, status bar, is initially hidden. Yes. You actually can change it from there too. All right? So the plist file, the info.plist, has got all of your major project settings in it. All right? All right, so he talks about that quite a bit in here. And on page 108, he actually talks about the info.plist in quite a bit of, he gives it quite a bit of talk, for lack of better words. All right? So hopefully there are no questions on that. That actually took more time than I was hoping it would, but I wanted to mention it to you because it did discuss the project settings, and I wanted you to see that. All right? So the next thing he says, if you look up on the screen here, the next part of this, where is it? On page 108 is the author says, okay, or 109. He says it's time now to take and convert this, come on, right here, the white screen that we have, to this. All right? And when we do this, think about what's here. Think about what's here and what's here. All right? The first thing is, Well, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add a background. That background is in that images thing. Oh, geez, I hope I had you. I'll have to check. Hold on a second. I may have had you copied over a wrong file, a wrong folder. Oh, brother. Oh, good. Resources has images in it. Good. Very good. All right. So when we look at this, we're going to have to change the background. Once we change the background, the problem right now is what color is our text? Black. So it's going to show on here, but it's going to be so dark you're going to barely be able to see it. So the author has you first come in and change the background. It's fairly simple to do. We'll do that in just a second. Then he says, why don't you go in and highlight all of your labels, every label that you've got on here. Now, he talks about making them being different sizes. All right, like he'll have this is about 20 points, and the stuff down here is about 20 point, but the stuff over here is like 16 point. That's an individual decision as far as whether you want to make those things different sizes or you want to make them all the same size. All right, so you can do it either way. What I'm going to do, just to save a little time, is after we change the color of the background, I'm going to highlight that label, and then that label, that label, that label, that label, that label, and that label. So I'm going to highlight 6 labels at one time. After I do that, I'm going to go over to color. All right, it's in my attributes inspector, and I'm going to change the color of all of them right away. I'm going to change them to white. All right, because that's the way it looks on here. I'm going to go and change the font size to about 20 points. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the font type, and I'll show you how to do all this in just a second. I think he has you use Arial, some kind of Arial font that's Arial bold font. All right, so we're going to do all that. But then he gets kind of off on a tangent here where he says, now let's give it some shadow and do some other stuff for effect. I'm going to skip that. Because, you know, if you want to go back and do that, you can. But we really don't have to. It'll look fine the way it is. But that'll give us time to get a lot of this done, where I don't think otherwise we'd be able to. All right. So, jumping back into the code. If you didn't know this previously, if you didn't know it, there is a thing right here that's actually a folder. And it's called assets.xc assets. And literally, that's where all of your images are kept. All right? So what we're going to do, and if you'd listen to me rather than do it, it would probably help right now. We're going to click that to highlight it. When we click it to highlight it, what you're going to see is down towards here, somewhere right around here, there'll be a plus sign. When you click the plus sign, it says, okay, you want to add stuff there. Then what you're going to have to do is peruse your way over to your desktop, find the resources folder, double click on that, find the images folder, double click on that. And that'll have about 10 images in it. You'll highlight all those images by holding down on your command key and tapping the letter A. And once you do that, we'll just follow the steps and it'll copy all of them into here. That's what we want to do. All right? So I'm going to take my mouse, put it on the or assets.xc assets, click there. There's my plus sign down at the bottom of the screen. All right, you can see where the mouse is right now, so that's where the plus sign is. I'm going to click the plus sign, and it says, what do you want to do? I want to choose import. I don't want to choose import from project. I want to choose import right there. All right, so I'm going to click on import, and it shows me basically the Apple file picker right here. All right, and it says, well, what do you want? All right, well, if you look right here, I want to go to my desktop because that's where I saved this stuff, right? That's where I had everybody drag your stuff. So I'm going to go to the desktop right here and click on that. Then I'm going to go and click on the arrow that's by resources, and I'm going to click on the arrow that's by images. I want all of those images. I'm just following the steps that are in the book. So if I'm going too fast for you, go back and do it on your own and take your time. All right? So I'm going to take my mouse and click on one of these, and then on my keyboard, I'm going to do a Command A to make sure all of them are highlighted. That's what I want to do. Again, I'm following the steps. All right, so I'm going to click on here, do a Command. I want to highlight all of them here. So there, I don't think you need the thumbs.db. All right. So I'm going to highlight all of them except that one. If you do highlight the thumbs.db, it doesn't hurt anything. You just have something else in there in your folder that you really don't need. So they're all highlighted, and I'm going to click Open. Now what it just did was it took all 10 of those files, 1 to 10, and it transferred them all into here. All right, so now what it's showing is that's open, and this is what's in it. Does that make sense? You say, well, it's just like a Windows. Yeah, but it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt because you don't do it the exact same way that you do it in Windows. All right, but the ideas are identical. All right, on page 111, and I'm not going to go over it a bit, but on page 111, which takes up most of the page here, is the author mentions here that when you are doing all this kind of stuff and you're using 1x, 2x, and 3x displays, what they're all used for. As the numbers get bigger, it's because the technology has gotten better and crisper. So 3x is technically going to be 3 times, all right, the size of a 1x. And he does mention on there that the 1x is for old stuff. So you really don't even need that, but it doesn't hurt to have it there. So you can read that on your own. I've already given it way too much time. All right. So again, following his steps, I'm now on page 112. What I want to do here is I want to go back and bring up my main storyboard. Right there. And this is going to work out great because I'm going to do the first one, and then I'll ask you to do that and do the second one on your own. All right? And what I'm about to show you, this is not hard. Okay? So, with this highlighted here, all right, I'm going to close a couple things just so I've got plenty of room. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to come over, and underneath here where I've got my different objects, I want to click down there towards the bottom, and I want to type in here image view right there. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type in image view. And there's an image view. Just take it and drag it someplace on the screen. Where you put it, etc., it doesn't matter because we're about to resize it. All right, so we just put the image view on the screen. Yours should look at least somewhat like mine does right now. All right? So, with all of that done, we want to go to a different inspector, and that's the size inspector, and I believe that's the one that's right here. All right? So it's next to your attributes inspector. We want to go to the size inspector. So I'm going to click on the size inspector. If it comes up and you get this stuff where it says it's got a bunch of different settings here, and it says height and width underneath there, you did it right. And then you're supposed to set X and Y both to 0. All right, so go in there and manually change those to 0. Then set the width to 568 and the height to 320. So 0, 0, 568, and 320. Notice what happened. This image view now covers the entire screen. All right, that's what I just did there. Why did we want to do that? Because the image view has a property that's called background. And we're about to change the background of this thing. But you've got to make sure that it covers the entire thing. All right? So, jump back to the attributes inspector, which is right next to where we were. All right, and it still should say image view. And notice under image, I want to click the down arrow and I want to choose background. Boom. Look on the screen. Is it pretty obvious what just happened? All right? So we just changed the background. Again, since our text is black, this stuff shows, but it's very hard to read. But it is there. What I wanted to get across to you is that's how you change the background. Because later the author goes back and says, now you go to the other screen, all right? So now you go to the About screen and do the same thing. So what did we do? We went over to the size inspector over here, and we set our X and Y coordinates both to 0. We set our width to 568 and our height to 320. That made the image view take up the whole area in here. Then we went over right next to it back to our attributes inspector up here, and we chose right now where it didn't have anything, we clicked the down arrow and we chose background. That's it. And the author says, well, you know what? Sometimes when you do this, you can't see anything. Now, please look at this, because what I'm about to show you, the author says, hey, there's a bug in Xcode, and you might find this happens to you. It happened to me. It's happened to me every time I've tried to do this. Every single frigging time. All right? So the author says what you want to do is you want to take the background and send it to the back. So you go to Editor, and you go to Arrange, and what should be blackened here is Send to Back. But it's not blackened. It's gray. See that? So the author says that's a bug in Xcode. So what you can do is you can click off of it and click back on it again. It still says Image View there. Then go to Editor. Then go to Arrange. And it still didn't. But I had to do it a couple times. So I had to click off of it and click onto it again. All right? He tells you other ways that you can do it too on the bottom of page 113. All right, he says deselect it and then select it again. So I just clicked someplace else. Then I clicked it again and tried Editor, Arrange. Now it goes, now Send to Back is highlighted. When I click, now it's a little bit easier to read because it is now put the background in the background. It moved it to the back. So now I can read my labels. So you can see all that stuff. So again, what I'm doing next is I'm highlighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 labels. I'm going to highlight all of them. Then I'm going to go over to my attributes inspector, and I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to change the size. All right? So let's do that. So here's the first one. The order in which you do these doesn't matter. So now all those that I told you that I wanted to highlight are highlighted. Did that make sense? I held down on the Command key and I clicked on each one. You can also do them individually, but doing them in one swoop is faster, which is why I'm doing it that way. All right, so with all that highlighted, I'm going over to my inspector over here, and when I look, yeah, make me a liar. Go ahead, just please make me a liar, because that's what I need. All right. I ended up doing them one at a time, but they say you can highlight all of them. But when I'm doing it over here, I don't see a thing that says color, whether I drag up or drag down. So I'm just going to do them one at a time. So I'm going to click on that first one. All right? And I'll do the first one, and then I'll give you time. You can do all of them. So with that one highlighted, I'm going to go over here, and you see my font size is already set to 20. If yours is set to 20, good. If you want it bigger or smaller, that's where you can jack with it. Okay? You can play with the alignment right here. So, a couple things that I want to do. It's centered. I want to keep it centered. Okay? So my font says System 20. Does it make sense to you where it says, and yours might say System with another number? That's a standard System font. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, I don't like that font, neither does the author. So he says, where it says T off to the side there, where there's a letter T right here, click on the T. So when you click on that, all right, it says system, but if you click the down arrow, there's one up above it that says custom. If you didn't see it, look on the screen right now, because there it is on mine. When I click custom like that, if I choose that one, then I can go down here and I can choose from a font family. And he has you go up to near the very top, and he has you choose Arial, Rounded, MT, Bold. So that changed our font type. All right. Well, that color still looks pretty ugly. So I also want to come over here and click the Done button and then find color. Notice it's black, which is the default. So I'm going to click the down arrow and I'm going to choose white. Now, is that pretty obvious what I just did? All right. And if it's too big like this, you can still drag it out, make it a little bit wider or whatever if you have to do that. So you may have to adjust this accordingly. So now I've got that done. And like I said, for whatever reason, it isn't working well. So we're going to break. And during the break, I'm going to change the sizes of all those things. I'm going to make them all 20 point. I'm going to make them all white. Does that make sense? So let's come back. It looks like it's about 5:2. Let's come back at 10 after. And we'll pick it up there. No, the second year classes have anywhere between 10 and 15.
Take 24 total.
Correct. I don't blame you. Jeez. Sounds like a great plan to me.
I know.
Impossible, by the